Hey y'all, hey, it's Naila, and this is Girl What You Reading. And today I want to talk about the third Mrs. Galloway. So let's talk about her. So, The Third Mrs. Galloway by Deidre Sanot. I'm not really sure how to pronounce her last name, but I heard an interviewer call her Sanat, so we're just gonna go with Deidre Sanot. Sounds like a plan. Okay, anyway, The Third Mrs. Galloway. At first, when I first picked up the book, I was not interested in reading the book because I saw the author. And I was like, I don't know if I want to hear a slave story from this woman. And then I had to do research on her, find out who she was. And honestly, she is an activist. She does documentaries. She does research on topics about slavery and about history. And so I had to really just think like this woman is probably going to be very honest in this fictional piece. And then I also thought about the fact that I have told my students that you cannot say that an ally cannot teach you anything. And clearly, Deidre is an ally. So I had to check myself a little bit. Like, she probably know what she's talking about a little bit. So then I watched some interviews with her, and she said how the story came about is she was doing research to find out why Utica, New York was not advertised as a place on the Underground Railroad. And as she was doing this research, the story just kind of came to her, which, I mean, I get it. That happens, sometimes we're looking at one thing and then, it takes us in a whole different direction. So, props to her for coming up with this story idea of a younger woman who has just gotten married, and her husband was married before, and his wife died. So she just got married. So she's constantly trying to prove herself to her husband and his cook, which happens to be a Black woman, but one in which he highly reveres. So as she's doing this, she finds these runaway slaves inside of her shed outside. So she wants these slaves to leave, or enslaved people. I'm sorry, please forgive me for that. She wants these enslaved people to leave so that she can, go on about her life, because at this point, this is a very dangerous situation. She wants to do the Christian thing, but she also wants to maintain her lifestyle. She doesn't want these people to ruin what she has going on. She doesn't even know these people. They just showed up in her shed. So what it winds up happening is the woman who is enslaved there, or not enslaved there, but the woman who is an enslaved woman who has snuck onto their property is pregnant, and is very pregnant, and is very ready to deliver. And so she's at a point where she can no longer move. So come to find out, they're all very connected, and they're all connected in a way that is so unbelievable in the moment. You don't really find out how they're connected until way later on in the story, but it's a good story, guys. Like, you should really read it. I gave it a 4.5 stars because I did see some parts in there where it's clear that Deidre is starting to feel it, like, oh, I can't make every white person seem like the bad guy. So she starts to make it, like, you can tell a little bit that she's trying to smooth this over just a little bit, but she does not make it so that the history and the horror of that time does not come through. It definitely comes through. There's slave catchers in it. There's Quakers in it. There's people, abolitionists in it. There's the people who are trying to send free people back to Africa, to a village in Africa. They talk about what was going on in that village in Africa that they were trying to send these people to. She does touch on that also. She touches on the relationships. She touches on how some people really did love their enslaved. And those enslaved really did love their captors, for lack of a better word. So it is a good book. I definitely do give it a 4.5 stars. I wish she could have gone just a little bit harder on it. It does seem a little bit rushed at the end, and you guys know how I feel about that rush at the end situation. However, there's a little bit more, even in the end, after, the whole thing went down, there's even a little bit more to it that you can see and witness what happens after that event. And so, yeah, I did watch the interview with the author. I was very impressed with her. And so that's what made me pick up the book. And, it's not just another slave story. It's a freedom story, honestly. So you should pick it up, read it, get what you get from it. I will leave the link for it from Amazon in the description. And I read it on Scribd. Y'all know how I feel about Scribd. It's only $11.99 a month. And then you get the trial before you have to actually pay that $11.99 a month. I will leave my link for Scribd in the description as well. So there's a link for Scribd. There's a link for that Amazon book so that you could pick it up on Amazon. And I hope that you guys enjoy it as much as I did. Please, please, please leave it in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the book, because it is not a newer book. It is a little bit older. It's a couple of years old, but I did not see a lot of people talking about the book. I did see a lot of interviews with the author, but I didn't really see anybody else talking about the book. And it's a good enough book to talk about. It really is. So I would love to have those conversations. But until next time, bye.